Hello there, people of the internet. So I want to go ahead and talk about some Minuteman loadouts. Whenever we're talking about these right here, just with the variety of different things that we have here in the US that is available to us on the civilian market, there's not really any real way for me to gauge, hey, get this one specific thing and this one specific thing and this one specific thing. So instead of going into specific items, I'm going to go ahead and branch off onto more like a genre style of a discussion here. So whenever we talk about a Minuteman loadout, I imagine that we are probably going to have some people go into the comments and they're going to tell me something about a 12 gauge and a 22 long rifle. Those are both extremely versatile tools and they definitely have their applications. However, those would be leaning more towards a survivalist standpoint as opposed to like a Minuteman standpoint. Now, Minuteman doesn't necessarily have to be dealing with government tyranny. It can be dealing with a vast variety of different things, whether or not it's invasion or political or civil unrest, or maybe it's your neighbor down the street, sends a flare into the sky and his house is being broken into or something like that. And, hey, we got 4 dudes inside of this truck. They each have ARs and they're looking for trouble. Minutemen assemble. We got to go take care of that situation. There's just a lot of varieties whenever it comes to the situations where having a Minuteman loadout would be a good idea. Not necessarily just to deal with government overreach or invasion or something like that, but you could potentially need to utilize your Minuteman capabilities in a more practical, more likely situation. As a matter of fact, during the riots and panics and whatnot that went on in 2020 and 2021 and probably 2022, I can't quite remember at this point. Sorry, I had a stroke during that time. I was trying not to die. I really lost track of my points in time, but there's a lot of reasons as to why it is that you might need your Minuteman loadout. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the necessary things for a Minuteman loadout. So the number one thing that I think that I should discuss here is that a lot of people will tell me the most important thing is medical stuff, simply because the odds of you needing medical stuff in a situation is going to be greater than your odds of needing some sort of defensive or offensive equipment, because people get hurt way more often than people actually try to hurt. And that's just kind of what we have in our nature. So getting yourself some decent medical equipment for emergency situations would absolutely be a good way to go, but that kind of stems beyond the idea of a Minuteman concept, which is more of an aggressive assault/defense style nature, whereas acting medically on somebody is more of it doesn't necessarily have to fall into the idea of a assault/defense style situation. It could be something as simple as a car crash where you might need to implement some medical situations. So your medical gear should be, it doesn't fall into the concept of the Minuteman concept, which is, hey, you have to be a deadly force and put rounds down range. I definitely recommend you get your medical gear, but that is beyond the stem of our conversation. So all of that out of the way, my recommendation for your Minuteman loadouts, most of the time whenever we are dealing with modern society, we are in a situation where we don't have our full equipment with us. We'll have our standard civilian stuff because we won't be at our house. And if something goes down and you're caught in a situation where you need to utilize defensive force, the odds of you being at your house whenever this encounter happens is not very high, considering that if you're out in a public area where there's a lot more people, the odds of something going down where you're a target or somebody around you is a target that you have to try to protect is much, much more likely than you being in your house and somebody deciding to cause you trouble while you're inside of your house. So I think one of the best options for a Minuteman setup is to have some sort of handgun. I don't care what it is that you have, what caliber. I don't care your preference. You choose, you do you. I really don't care, as long as you're able to effectively put lead downrange accurately and stop a threat. I don't care if you hit him with a 380, a 22, 45, 44 Magnum. Take your pick. But having yourself some sort of handgun that you can keep on your person for concealment, or that you could keep on your person inside of your household, some sort of handgun that is much more mobile than some sort of rifle to be able to immediately stop a threat. I know the concept of the Minuteman is to be ready for combat within a minute, but with something like this, you could draw this and take care of a threat in, I mean, I've seen draw times less than a second, and this right here is a dramatically good tool to be able to effectively stop someone from doing what they're doing in the event that you have to stop them from doing what they're doing. This is a good, quick, fast, easy way to be able to pull that off. And it is, in my own personal opinion, as far as the Minuteman concept goes, of being able to immediately become a force of deadly encounter, this right here is probably one of the most effective ways to be able to do that. So in this case, I got 45 ACP 1911. I have no idea how many rounds are inside of this mag. I think 5. Let's find out. And this is a very useful tool. And with it being 45 ACP, it's very powerful. And if you get yourself a good tool with good training, you can be very effective with these things out to some pretty significant ranges. Okay, I guess I had 3 in there, so not 5. But you can be very effective with these out to some very significant ranges. As a matter of fact, I have a particular handgun, 1872 model open top, that is just so well fine-tuned that I can make shots with it out at my 100-yard mark, and I make shots with it regularly out of that distance. And so if you have a handgun that is very capable within that 100 yards, then you have some very significant capabilities as a deadly encounter. So handgun, absolutely one of my all-time top picks, including for a Minuteman concept. I know a lot of people will move to a rifle for a Minuteman concept, and they're like, hey, if things are hitting the fan, then we're gonna get full kitted up, we're gonna grab our rifle, grab our gear, grab our everything, and go take care of the situation. But if you are in a situation where you have to implement a Minuteman loadout, the odds of you being able to equip all of your stuff is quite low in comparison to the odd, unless you really see something coming, the odds of you being able to grab your rifle and your gear and your medical stuff and your plate carriers and all of your everything is pretty low. Whereas something like your handgun, you'd be able to draw and implement immediately. Now, if you do have time to be able to go and grab your rifle, I recommend having yourself some sort of self-loading, semi-automatic rifle. You could go with well, I'll go ahead and leave that up to you. Personally, I would recommend an intermediate caliber cartridge just because of the capabilities of the intermediate caliber cartridge. They're going to be effective out to about 500 yards. I don't care what it is that you decide to go with. There's some that are more or less capable than others. 7.62 by 39, about 400 yards. 6.5 Grendel, you can touch out past that 500 yard mark. But most of your encounters and situations will be within the range of that 223 5.56 or 7.62 by 39 or 5.45, or bottom line is the intermediate cartridge will be able to handle most of your situations because they're going to be within that 500 yard mark. And these right here are powerful enough to be able to stop someone in their tracks, even if that someone is armored. The amount of energy transfer from one of these, even if the projectile does not pierce that armor, it's going to cause that guy to have a very bad day and reevaluate what it is that he is doing. So a good intermediate caliber cartridge firing rifle, or your choice. It is your choice. But a self-loading rifle of some kind that you can get accessories and mags and all of your things for. That would be another one of my all-time picks for a Minuteman loadout. Now, I don't care if you go AR or AK or G3 or FAL or insert your choice of caliber and rifle here. I'll leave that one up to you. Wow, this is a very effective platform. I just put 5 rounds down range in 2 seconds or so. Now, on top of your intermediate cartridge, there might be some times where you do have to touch out to longer distances, or maybe you have to penetrate a barrier, or maybe you have to do some damage to a vehicle, or maybe there is someone with some armor that is just not getting knocked down with your intermediate cartridges. I recommend having yourself, along with your intermediate rifle, get yourself a full power rifle of some kind, a milsurp, a hunting rifle, get a sporterized, you know, get something that sends heavier projectiles downrange at a faster velocity to be able to take care of whatever it is that you need to take care of, and will serve as a good survivalist rifle, especially if you're up north, taking out a moose or an elk or something with a 223 5.56 is not ideal. But if you had your full power rifle to go with you, then that right there would do tremendous, or be a tremendously more capable rifle at handling those kinds of situations. There's just some situations where a more powerful rifle would be the ideal go-to situation. This particular one is a bolt action rifle. With this right here being not in the combat role, you could get away with bolt action rifles, though I would recommend getting yourself some sort of self-loading rifle. But these right here don't have a gas system in it, so you can run a variety of different kinds of ammo. This is Turkish stuff, 155 grain projectile traveling at about 3,000 feet per second. And boy, is it powerful. Oh God, that poor steel down there. Wow, that steel is still standing. I'm impressed. What do you guys think about my selection? Let me know what you guys' selection would be. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. My battery's about to die. I'll see y'all on the next video. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. Shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.